Now, you may have probably seen one of our next speaker's tutorials online because you may know him as Chris in Code or Chris Sev, and he is going to show you how to build a Jamstack site with Strapi and Next.js in 25 minutes. No spoilers, just welcome Chris on stage.
Right on. Thank you so much for that intro. Hey, everybody. I am Chris Sev, and I am so happy to be here. I am absolutely a big fan of Strapi, have been for a while. And so, an intro from me. My name is Chris Sev. I'm a senior developer advocate at DigitalOcean. And my entry into DigitalOcean came when I started a blog called Scotch.io. And Scotch.io got acquired by DigitalOcean about a year and a half ago. But blogging is really important to my life, to writing, CMSs, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of my start in the industry. So the reason I really like Strapi is because it's a CMS that gives us everything out of the box, and you don't have to kind of muddle through and build your own CMS. And I'm kind of speaking as, experience and that grumpy person that says, you know what, I've built that before. I wouldn't do it again. But I will say it was a great learning experience to build Scotch.io from scratch using Laravel. It started on WordPress. We switched over to Laravel and got to build a CMS and see how all of the inner workings and SEO and all that fun stuff works. But I will say that Strapi, it lets us do all of those things that we had to build by hand out of the box, which is really, really nice because we can get up and running and focus on what our customers really care about is our content. So today, this talk is Jammin on Strapi. I definitely want to talk about the Jamstack and how we can build it using Strapi and how we can build a blog in the 30 minutes that we have together. And that's amazing that we can build a blog in the 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll be doing the back end with Strapi, and we'll be doing the front end with Next.js, which I think I get this question a lot. What would you build a blog in today? Like, what would you build a modern blog in? What stack would it be? I think it would be Strapi and Next.js. I love the combination of the two. We'll be using a methodology called the Jamstack. And the Jamstack, the J stands for JavaScript, the A stands for APIs, and the M stands for markup. And what that essentially means is we have a JavaScript front end that is kind of decoupled from our backend, which is our APIs. So the cool thing about Strapi is that it gives us an API and a CMS out of the box, and we'll be building that in just a second. And the cool thing about Next.js is that it comes on the front end side, and it is JavaScript, and it can pull data from our CMS and also statically render it so that we get HTML and we serve HTML to our customers, and that makes our sites incredibly fast. And that's what the Jamstack is all about in my mind, is about speed and security. So we'll show you how to statically generate a Next.js site and build a blog using Strapi and Next.js. So to start us off, we have Strapi here. We're going to create a brand new Strapi app, and we're going to set this up. We're going to build an API, and we're going to get it all ready for Next.js front end. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's my terminal right here. I am going to say npx create Strapi app, and we're going to say StrapiConf backend, and I'm going to do quick start because quick start is going to tell Strapi, hey, could I get an SQLite database set up for me locally? And I don't have to set up any larger size databases like Postgres, MySQL, Mongo, any of that stuff. SQLite is great for what we're doing locally. And then when we eventually push to production, maybe we're using DigitalOcean's app platform, which is DigitalOcean's new platform as a service. We can say, hey, here's Postgres. Can you hook into Postgres now? And Strapi can say, no problem. I'm just going to switch over from SQLite to Postgres. Easy cheese, just changes in the config files. So we'll let this go ahead and run. And while this is running, I kind of want to talk about a little bit more of the Jamstack and Next.js itself. So Next.js has two ways to render a site. And that's statically render it, where it's going to create all of the HTML files for us. And for a blog, that really makes sense to have static sites that we can generate and then serve from a CDN. That's going to be the fastest possible way to serve a website for our users. And the reason it's the fastest possible site is because we're just serving a full HTML page. There's no backend processing. There's nothing like that. So that's step one, is a statically generated site. Step two is what is called incremental static generation. Oh, and here's Strapi. Thank you. Is called incremental static generation. And what that is saying we can't statically generate the entire page, all of our pages, because let's say we have a site that has 10,000 pages. We can say statically generate the site one page at a time every time a person visits that page. So when the first person visits a page, create an HTML file. And then the second person visits, we say, hey, here's our HTML file. Take that HTML file. So we'll show you how to do both. Let's go for Chris right here. Sev C. Sevaleja at DigitalOcean. So I'm going to set up Strapi real quick. Type in a password, And just like that, we have a CMS up and running that we can use to build out our APIs and let people come in, edit content. Amazing. I had to build all of this by hand in Laravel, which was, again, a great learning experience, but a lot of time spent. It maybe took 8 months to build that CMS. And here we are, 5 minutes in and we have a CMS. So fantastic. All right. We will click create first content type. So for this demo, we're going to do a blog, which is the de facto kind of Jamstack application. You can do this for any other sort of site where you have data and you want to show data. So you could do this for like an e-commerce site where you had products. I'm going to do post here, but you could do product, and then you can build out your products for your e-commerce site. You could do post. You could do cats, animals, anything you think of can all be handled by Strapi, which is really fun. So we'll go continue. And we are going to start building out this content type called post. I'm going to have text for title. That looks good there. I'll click add another field. I'm going to have text for the slug because a blog usually needs to have a slug in the URL, right? Well, I'm going to do that. Add another field. We're going to go for number. Let's go for likes. And this is cool here because we can say, hey, you're going to be an integer, advanced settings. I want you to default to 0. So all likes are going to be starting at 0, which makes sense. And then we can increment as we go along. I'll click add another field. And since this is a post type, we're going to have rich text, which is going to be the content. Now, the cool thing about Strapi is I'm going to do one more thing, and that's going to be a relation. And we'll say, hey, each post should have an author, and an author should have many posts. So one user has many posts, and that makes sense right there. You could even do something like a post has and belongs to many users. So you can say, well, one post is co-written by like 3 people. Super cool there. So we're going to say author and posts. You could also call this user instead of author if you wanted to be kind of similar to the database naming scheme, but I'll just do author. It makes sense both ways. All right, and I think that's it. So here it is. Post is title, slug, likes, content, and author. And I think that looks pretty good right there. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. All right, so here is our new post type. We have title, slug, likes, content, author. We'll go over to posts and let's create one. So I'll go add new post, my first post, and then let's go down here. Hi there, I'm a post. And notice you can choose your author right here. We don't have any authors just yet. We'll create one in a second, and I'll click save. Now, the cool thing about this is that Strapi by default comes with a draft and publish system. So let's say you have posts that you want to put in draft stages. You want somebody to come in and edit it, and then they can publish it. Draft and publish is right here. So now it's published. It should be viewable from our API now. So to show that off, we'll go to localhost 1337/posts. But notice that it's a 403 forbidden, which means that we can't view this resource. And this is actually something that Strapi does across the board. It just says, hey, all resources are going to be private until you explicitly set permissions on it, which is, I think, a really good policy to have. So we're going to go back here, and we're going to make sure that posts can be seen publicly. So we can go down to settings right here. We can go down to users and permissions plugin. We'll click roles. And now we'll click public. And here, if we scroll down, public people can see posts, and we can say we can count them. You can find all of them, or you can find a single one. All right, so now let's go save back to our API, and we should be able to get some data now. I refresh and check that out. It's an array of posts like that. Super, super nice right there. All right, so that looks good. Let's go ahead and create another post over here. Let's go to posts. Let's go for my second post. My second post. And there is a way to auto-generate a slug from a title. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. My second post. We'll click save and publish. Now let's go ahead and author so that we can actually post an author to these posts. Add new user right here. I'm going to just do Chris C. Savaleja at DigitalOcean.com. Password right there. Confirmed on. Cool. And now you can go from here and you can say, okay, well, let's say Chris wrote both of these posts. Super nice, super easy UI right there. So I'll click save. So now Chris is the owner of both of those posts. This is a user that exists now. We can go back to posts. Everything looks good there. We can go back to the API, refresh, and now author comes out of the API and gives it to us so we can actually use that author in our API and our front end. The last thing I want to do on the Strapi side of things is make sure that we can auto-generate the slug from the title, because that makes sense for a CMS to do. So we're going to go over to our terminal, cancel that out. We're going to say strapi-conf backend. We're going to npm install slugify, which is a tool to take a string and actually turn it into a slug. And then we'll rerun npm run develop. All right, so I want to show you something really cool about Strapi is everything you see in the dashboard here is going to correspond to something in code. And what I mean by that is we have content types, we have post, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this isn't just in the dashboard. Strapi actually gets this data from a file. And I'll show you where that is. If I open up VS Code, click open, and I open this new folder, here in the API folder, in the post folder, under models, post settings.json, check it out. Here's the posts. Here are the attributes. We have title, slug, likes, and content, and author. So these are all of the things that we just kind of clicked in the dashboard to create, but Strapi says, you know what, I'm going to put it in code. So the really cool thing about this is anytime this changes in code and you commit it to GitHub, you can kind of see how the data changed in your GitHub history. But the one thing we want to do is make sure that we can say when you are saving or updating a post, take the title, turn it into the slug. So I'm going to go over here. We're going to say life cycles right here. And I'm going to say async before create has data. And async before update takes params and data like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if data.title, then data.slug is equal to slugify data.title. And also, you can pass in lower is true to kind of lowercase it. We're going to take this entire thing and paste it right in here as well. And let's make sure we require slugify. Oh, sorry, slugify is equal to require slugify. There we go. So we have the ability now to say, oh, before you create a post, check the title and turn that into the slug. Or if you update, do the same exact thing. And you can also say, hey, if no data.slug and the data.title exists, then you do that. But for now, we can just say, just update it if data.title exists. So let's go test that this works. We're going to go back over here, go to our post collection type, my first post, exclamation. Actually, let's do like 33333, which makes no sense, but click save and check that out. The slug was auto-generated from that. Okay, let's take a step back and we're going to move to the front end where we can take this API that we've created in 10, 15 minutes. So easy. We're going to take this API, this data, and we're going to turn it into a blog site. So I'm going to go back to my terminal right here, open up. Actually, let's open up a new tab. We're going to say npx create next app, strapiconf, front end. All right, so now we are going to go into strapiconf, front end, run npm run dev. And now we can go to localhost 3000, and this is our brand new Next.js application. Once it spins up, very nice. Okay, so we have our Next.js app. Let me go over here. I'm going to open up a brand new VS Code. I'm going to open up strapiconf front end right there. And this is going to be our Next.js application. And we have pages here. Index is where we just saw all of that stuff load up. That's where it said, welcome to Next.js. So we're going to just delete all of it. Div, welcome to strapiconf. Take over. Okay, there we go. And we don't need that anymore. Perfect. So the way that Next.js gets data and statically generates a site is a function called export async function get static props. So what this is going to do is get data from our API, pass it to our component, which is the home component above right here. And you're going to return that as return props, and then you just pass in an object. So to do this, let's go ahead and get data from our API. Const res is equal to await fetch http localhost 1337/posts. Const post is equal to await res.json. And now we can pass in posts right here. All right, so that looks good. We can go up here now, grab those posts. And here we go. Let's say, welcome to strapiconf. Actually, let's wrap that in like an H1 and close that H1 and say post.map, post. And this is how you loop in React, right? So we're going to say div key is equal to index, post.title. There we go. Okay, so we have H1 to say welcome to strapiconf, and we are looping over the posts to say, hey, here is the post title of all of our posts. And if you wanted, you could even say by post.author.name. There we go. Okay, so let's make sure that this works. We haven't actually tested this code yet, but I'm hopeful that this works. So let's go over here. Oh, property map of undefined. It didn't work. Let's go see what went wrong. It looks like there are no errors in our logging here. That's still running. That's good. Okay, let's go check it out here. Oh, I just had a refresh. Wow. Okay, so it looks like my first post by name didn't come through. Let's go double check what happened. Let's see. Let's console.log up here. Posts. Just so we can see what's coming through. Console.log debugging. Welcome. Here we go. Inspect console array. Author is username is what we should be pulling, and there is no name property. So let's go ahead and do username. And now I'm getting confused between Strapi's backend and Next backend. So I'm going to close the Strapi one. Close that out right there. Post.author.username. There we go. And that should work. I'm going to do this right here and this right here so we can see. And that's statically exporting a site. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to go into our package.json. And there are scripts here for dev, build, and start. We want to say export. And that's going to be next build and next export. So let's go ahead and run this export command. I'm going to go over here and actually cancel that out. And we'll say npm run export. What this is going to do is actually going to statically generate this page. So if you're using React, right, it would go get the data from our API after a page loads. But if we do it in get static props, like we did right here, get static props, this is going to run during the build. So Next.js is going to say, okay, let me go grab all of these posts. Let me look at what this component is going to look like. And then I'm going to actually just turn that into an HTML file. And you can see that here under this out folder, index.html. It's all minified, so it's performant. But down here, if you scroll down, all of our data is kind of living right here. So that's the benefit. There we go. Welcome to StrapiConf, my first post. And it's right in the HTML. And this is going to be the fastest possible way that you can give a site to your users is through static exports. But this may not be the strongest because let's say you have 20,000 posts. It may take a little bit of time to do the build. And if you changed one file, to update 20,000 files because you changed one doesn't really make sense. So that's why the incremental static generation way works really well. And you might be wondering, all right, well, how do I set that up? You don't have to do anything. Instead of running the export command, you just run npm start. And then Next.js will say, okay, first person that comes to this page, I will do get static props. And the second person that comes to this page, I'll just give them the HTML that I just generated. So that's a really amazing feature of Next.js. But you might be wondering next, okay, well, we have the home page. How do we get to individual pages? To do that in Next.js, we are going to create another page. And you might be wondering, well, Chris, do we have to do like my first post 333.js? And then we do another one for my second post.js? That wouldn't really be scalable, right? We wouldn't want to do this for 20,000 posts. So what we do here, let's delete these, is Next.js has the concept of dynamic routes. So we're going to wrap this in slug.js, and anything in the brackets is going to be dynamic right there. So to set this up, we are going to say export async function post. And we need to tell Next.js two things. Step one, tell Next.js about all of the posts that we need to make. And step two, tell Next.js how to get data for a single post. And then pass that up to the post, which is going to be here. So we're going to pass that in as a prop. All right, so step one, we have a handy dandy function called export async function, and that's going to be get static paths. And down here, we're going to have export async function get static props. And this is the structure to these three functions can generate 20,000 posts. They can generate 50,000 posts. All of these are going to handle thanks to these two functions right here. So let me show you how to set that up. We are going to say const res is equal to, we're going to pull from our Strapi API, await fetch HTTP localhost 1337/posts const data is equal to await res.json. And we can actually call this posts right here. And then the way that this works is you are going to return paths, which is an array, and fallback, which is false for now. So that's how that's going to work. But the way that paths works is you have each one be an object where you say slug is going to be blah, or my first post, like that. And so on and so forth. And this is how Next.js is going to know how many pages to dynamically generate. Is this array right here, paths, and then basically it's going to pass this slug down into this one right here as params. So that's kind of the two-step functions of get static paths and get static props. I know it's a little confusing between the two, but here we go. we're not going to write all of these out by hand, right? So we're just going to say posts.map, post, and let's generate it right here. We're going to say params is equal to slug is post.slug. So now by doing a map over all of the posts, we are able to generate all those pages. And then down here, we'll do the same exact thing. We're going to say const res is equal to await fetch HTTP localhost 1337/posts. And then we're going to say slug is equal to, and I got to turn this into a template string now, params.slug. So we're pulling the slug out of params now. And we're going to say const data is equal to await res.json. And then we can return props is going to be post is data 0. Because Strapi will return data as an array, and we just want that first array since it's just one post. All right. So those two are probably the hardest parts of Next.js is get static paths and get static props together. But we are done and able to build a 20,000 page site, a 20-page site, a 50-page site. All we have to do is just keep adding to our Strapi dashboard, and this would generate each one, which is really cool. And then down here, we just say return div, and then you can say h1 post.title, and then you could say a p tag right here by author.username, and then a div right here for post.content. And again, this goes for everything besides posts. You don't need posts to do this. You could do this with e-commerce. You could do this with any sort of content. But the technique is the same. You're going to use get static paths and get static props and this dynamic route. So let's see if our site works, but we need to have links, right? So we're going to say link href is going to be posts. Sorry, we're going to have post.slug there. And there we go. I know that got a little messy right there. Close that link. And the way that Next.js wants it is an A tag and an A tag like that. So now we have the link that's going to link over to each post. And I got to import link from next link. Like that. All right, that's a lot of coding without testing. So let's go see if everything works out okay. Are you still running? You are not. npm run dev. Okay, that looks good. Let's go over here. It is pulling everything from our API. We have our homepage that lists all of our posts. We can click my first post, and it went to my first post. There we go. The default export is not a React component in page slug. Okay, so let's go see what's wrong there. It probably is a quick typo. Export async function. Export default. There we go. And are there any other defaults? Nope. Okay, so let's refresh this. Uh-oh. Objects are not valid as React children. Okay, let's go check the render here. Export default. Oh, async function needs to go. It's not an async function, just a function. So there we go. My first post by Chris. Hi there, I'm a post. So that looks good there. And then we can go back to the home page, go to my second post, and it pulls the second post data like that. So that's really nice. And it could go on for as many posts as we want. And all of the data is coming from Strapi. And we're using Next.js is really just two files. Index right here where we loop over all of the posts. And then slug where we show each post. So the next steps here are to actually design out each page, bring in a CSS framework like Tailwind CSS, which I'm a big fan of lately. But this is the foundation for a Jamstack site. Get static paths, get static props, having a great CMS that's backing you, that gives you an API like Strapi, all of that great stuff will lead to a great Jamstack, a great fast site, and then you just add on your styles and you're off to the races. The last thing I want to do here is let's npm run export here. Let's see how many pages we can get built. All right, let's let that run. Here we go. It says, check it out. It discovered there was my first post, my second post, and it went ahead and created those files for us. So if we go back here, go to this out folder, there we go, my first post, my second post, and now we're able to serve HTML from a CDN if we deployed to DigitalOcean's app platform, and we are in good shape for a Jamstack app. So I hope you enjoyed that as far as building a Jamstack app using a Strapi backend, Strapi CMS, and a Strapi API. And check that out. We did it all in 30 minutes, and we pulled all that data in Next.js, and we're able to make a really nice Jamstack app. All right, that was a lot in 30 minutes, and I hope this is helpful for you to go build out any sorts of apps that you have a CMS backing it. If you want, definitely come hang out with me and say hi on Twitter. Chris__Sev is my handle on Twitter. I'd love to chat with you there. But all in all, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoy the rest of StrapiConf. I know I will. And thanks for watching.
Thank you for the fantastic talk, Chris. That was an intensive Jammin session, and it's always exciting to see you build things with Strapi.